Right.
What a way to go, though.
What a way to go.
She didn't go for men with beards.
All right, what's my time?
Okay. Learning sponsors, a year of learning, friends of Nina Moynester, Nechama Asnabat, Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezechen Ishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha Bas Rivka, Isaac and Evelyn Blacho in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. A month of learning by Mark Linder in memory of his mother Yona Bat Zalman Leib. Rabbi Isaac Schmerler in memory of his wife Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Friends of Marilyn Schmerler in her memory Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. A week of learning by Alan Blumenfeld in memory of his father Gershon ben Harav Pinchas Cohen. Dave and Mindel Cheslow in memory of his mother Bela Bas Meir. Sam and Shifra Coleman in memory of his father Yaakov ben Shmuel. Okay, today is the Today is the 9th, right?
Tuesday, August 9th.
9th. Let me get it right. So we do not have anything else. So we keep in mind for Refuah Shlema for Peretz, Semach ben Yaakov Yitzchak, and for all the others as well that are in need for Refuah Shlema. What? Paul Schwartz, Perech Semach ben Yaakov Yitzchak. Okay, and everyone else that we say, may Hashem is having Aliyah for Crank Rafia Vel Yeshiva Shem Atzliya and L'chol Bnei Yisrael Good Gaben Shia. Right. Tried calling Michael Schiffer last night.
Yeah.
Had to just leave a message and called on his cell phone. So try another time. Okay. So, all right. Wanted to see, I didn't have a chance yet to see how long it is.
What?
The next Tisha
No.
There won't be a next issue.
Correct.
That's
We do our part.
No, it'll be Pittsburgh another time.
Well, that will be the 9th of Av. That's
Yeah.
correct.
No, all I'm
Follow
saying, I
the
wanted to
eighth.
see when, I didn't have a chance. I wanted to see when the next Masechet was starting. Okay.
Have a while.
But we have quite a while because we continue with this all the way through all the Yom Tevin. Okay. All right. Okay, so if I go back to the bottom of Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, right? We sort of stopped there on the bottom, right? Ihu lav mishum de lo mechayev ela mishum de kam le, right? B'derabba minei. Okay, so that gave us our principle, our main principle. Okay, right? Ibetovat, ibetoveach al yadei acher. And we said there the question was if the situation was such that one person stole the animal but somebody else slaughtered it, Ma'ita mayu de rabbanon de patre. Okay, what was the reason that the rabbis then, exempted the person, right? Man chachamim, which sages? And that's where we stopped yesterday. So we're really right on the top of Lamed Dalet Amud Aleph, right? Okay, and as we go through, we'll see a little more clarification. So Rabbi Shimon, he says the Gemara, it's Rabbi Shimon de Amar, Shchita she'ena ru'uya, lo shmach shchita, that any kind of slaughter that is not fit or appropriate, to the situation, it's not a valid shchita, and therefore one can't eat from that animal, right?
In other words, if I shech the behemoth, the mother and the child at the same day, even though it's a legitimate slaughter, I can't eat it.
Right, right. And now the Gemara is going to give us examples other than that one. Okay, right? So what happens? Right. So hatinach avodat kochavim.
It's not it's a slaughter which cannot be,
That's according to Rabbi Shimon.
and according to other Goyim,
Let's see if the Gemara addresses it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens? What's the example? Hatenach, that view of Rabbi Shimon is acceptable. Hatenach avodat kochavim, when the animal was slaughtered for idol worship, v'shor haniskal, or the animal was destined to be stoned, because in both of those cases, we're going to say it's shchita she'ena re'uya. The animal is,
Animal was stolen and shechted. Is it still considered shechted?
is it considered a valid animal to be eaten? Let's see if the Gemara discusses it. Okay?
Because I mean, technically, once I change the condition of it, it's mine.
Maybe the Gemara is going to raise that question.
Okay, I'm jumping the gun.
Okay? All right. Ella, right? Rather, Shchitat Shabbat. Okay? Aren't we coming closer to your question, Sid? Okay, Shchitat Shabbat, slaughtering it on the Shabbat. Shchita Ru'uyahi. But in that case, even though you would be over on Shabbos, it still might be a valid shchita, even if you slaughter it on Shabbos. So why then couldn't you eat it? Right? Ditznan, as we're taught.
You said something, Michael, I didn't hear the last few words you said.
Okay? So in other words, so the Gemara's question is, wait a second, how about the example of slaughtering the animal on Shabbos? True, we know he's going to be over on Shabbos, right? But that's still a valid shechita.
It's considered still a valid state.
That's the question the Gemara is asking. And now it goes on. Ditznan, as we learn elsewhere in a Mishnah, Hashochet b'Shabbat u'v'yom haKippurim, afal pi shemitchayev b'nafsho, one who slaughters on Shabbos or on Yom Kippur, despite the fact that he puts his life in jeopardy. Why? Because he's going to be chayev of being over on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Okay? Right? And
It's kosher.
Shchita tok sheira. That's what the Mishnah is telling me. It's still the animal, all right? So what happens? Savar lak Rabbi Yochanan Hasandla. It must be that Rabbi Shimon then has the same opinion as Rabbi Yochanan the Sandler, who says to Tanya, who teaches elsewhere in a Braita, Hamivashel b'Shabbat, one who's cooking on Shabbos, okay, b'shogeg, and does so inadvertently, yochel, can eat it. B'mezi. What?
People can eat.
Yeah, well, all it says is, right, it can be eaten. Okay, we're going to get into that in more detail in a second. B'mezid, if he does it on purpose, lo yeachel, it cannot be eaten. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir.
Someone else cooks it.
Oh, let's see. Hold on.
Not according to Rameya.
Okay, all right. The point would be, as Michael just suggested, Rabbi Meir is saying any intentional cooking on Shabbat means the food stuff cannot be eaten, period.
But it's still considered a kosher slaughter.
But it's now we're talking about cooking. It's amazing.
All right, okay. Now, what happens? The Gemara goes on, though.
No, excuse me.
Marty,
Never mind.
okay? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, B'shogeg ye'ochel l'motzei Shabbat. If it were done inadvertently, it may be eaten after Shabbat. Okay? According to Rabbi Yehuda, b'mezid lo ye'ochel olamit. But if it was done intentionally, it can never be eaten. That's
And
Rabbi
there's a
Yehuda.
discussion in the
whether or not that applies to the whole world or just
So
the
the
violator.
right, we're gonna get to that in a second. I'm always gonna wait till that till we get to the third opinion. Rabbi Yochanan Hassan Lar Omer, what does he say? B'shogeg yeochel motzei Shabbat. If it's done inadvertently, it may be eaten after Shabbos. Okay? La'acherim, okay, for others, velo lo, but not to the person who did the cooking. Okay? So here we see that Rabbi Yochanan ben Hassan Lar is making a distinction between the person who did the act of cooking and others, right? What happens though? B'mezid, if it's done, right, intentionally, lo yechel olamit, implying that the person who did the cooking can never eat it. Lo velo la'achirim, neither for him nor for others. Okay? For anyone. All right? So therefore we see. So the Gemara then says,
So do you deal with your shkita shem and ruya, because you can't eat on Shabbos?
I'm not sure about that
What's
because
that question?
Ruvain's question is, would it then be considered a
I
shkita
think
sheina ruya?
That's
No,
the
because
point.
others-
I'm not sure because it's,
Right.
because what you're saying is if it was done in shogeg,
Yeah, but we're talking about mazit, because you're.
that's a mazit situation.
Yeah,
Talking
but
about,
it's not,
Has nothing to
if, for example, someone were sick, you would be able to shed lechatchila, so it's not a low plug.
Right. In other words, here again, maybe
There are
that
cases.
person couldn't eat it, but you're somebody else.
That's
And
could.
good.
even according
Right.
to Reb Meir's opinion, the Meforshim bring that others can eat it. It has happened
All right.
where
Okay.
somebody,
So that's why I wouldn't consider it.
Okay.
And
I
he-
was, and it has happened where people asked me a shiloh,
Yeah.
where somebody did shehiyah on Shabbos with liquid.
Yeah.
They warmed soup on Shabbos.
Right.
And it was clearly b'shoigeg.
Right.
And a guest later said to me, "What? I didn't know what to do."
Right.
So I said, "You could eat it.
Sure.
The halacha is if it's b'shoigeg, you
can
could
eat
eat it. The person who did it cannot."
Penny,
That's
I
how
know
it's
out
brought.
of it by selling it.
What?
by selling it.
Rabbi, I can't eat with this cooked on Shabbos.
Right.
I can't eat, can I sell it, have a gnaw out of it?
Yeah.
Selling.
Yeah, they have to set up.
Not on
After Shabbos.
Not on Shabbos.
I ain't selling it on
Well, you can
Shabbos,
sell it
I'll
on
sell
Shabbos.
after.
That would just compound the problem.
Right. Okay.
What you say,
That would make it more. All right, let's
Sell
go
it
on.
Shabbos and just add another event.
if I
Right?
say I'll sell it, so I
You
can
can
have a
do
gnaw
that.
out of it after
You can
Shabbos.
do that.
You could have hana'ah from it after Shabbos. My Tama de Rabbi Yochanan Asandla, what was his reasoning? Kiddarish Rabbi Chia apidcha de Beinasiya, as was expounded by Rabbi Chia at the doorway of the Beis Nasi, right? Ushmartem et Shabbat, ki kodesh hu lachem. One should observe or guard, protect the Shabbos because it is holy to you. Ma kodesh asur ba'achila, af ma'aseh Shabbat asurin ba'achila. So that's Rabbi Yochanan ben Sanah. The same way Shabbos is kodesh, so any act done on Shabbos is forbidden, okay, there for eating. So in other words, that would be more like Rabbi Meir. Okay. Right. Ima kodesh asur. All right. So therefore, if it's sanctified and its use is forbidden, bahana'a af ma'aseh Shabbat asur bahana'a. You see, Sid? Okay. So the same way then, there's that prohibition there of any deed occurring on Shabbat would be prohibited for benefit. So that would answer your question right there.
According to, yes.
According to Rabbi Yochanan Asandlar, right?
Yeah,
That
but
would
the
be his
pasuk,
view.
The Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, the
But
But
pasuk
now
doesn't
we
allow
get
it.
to a pasuk,
It's
right?
not a good leap.
Right?
Right.
But Talmud Lomar, however, that we see, lachem shalachem yehe. Okay, when it says to you, it means for your benefit, so to speak, for your purpose. Yachol afilu b'shogeg. We might say even if it was done accidentally. Talmud lomar. Maybe there was going to teach us michala leha mot yumat, that if one desecrates the Sabbath, they get the death penalty. B'mezid amar tilach v'lo b'shogeg. That's where there is clearly, it comes to tell us when it's done intentionally, that's
Still
when
lachem, it's still
it's
yours.
still yours and not inadvertently. So what happens? Plige ba Rav Acha v'Ravina. And now we have another example where there's a machloket between Rav Acha and Ravina. Chad amar ma'aseh Shabbat de'oraita. One says an act that occurs on Shabbos
The
is
restrictions are
is
here.
based on the Torah prohibition, v'chad amar derabanan, and one says it's based on rabbinic prohibition.
The
Ma-
consequence on the food stuff.
Man da'amar de'oraita, the one who says it's according to the Torah, kida'amran, okay,
We just said.
as we've just said. Man da'amar derabanan, according to the one who says it's rabbinic, amar kra, cites the pasuk, kodesh he, that it's sanctified. He kodesh ve'ein ma'aseh hakodesh. The Shabbos itself is what's sanctified, but acts committed on it, okay, are not considered sanctified. Ulaman damar de rabbanan, and according to the one who says it's rabbinic, ma'im ta'amayhu de rabbanan de patre. What then is the reason that the rabbis exempt? Ki ka patre rabbanan asha'ara. No, here we're saying that the rabbis exempt on the other items. In other words, the rest of the other cases, that of slaughtering the animal for idolatry or for the ox to be stoned, right? Toveach la'avodat kochavim, namely, that's one example, one who slaughtered for idol worship. Kevan deshachat be porta. But now we're going to come back to another one of Sid's questions, okay? Since he slaughtered it somewhat,
Just even starting this.
right? Began to get it right. Eat sarle, it should be forbidden to him,
Because it's a way to Zorah.
right? Idach kikat tavach, lav demare kav tavach, right? And if we say another does the slaughtering, he didn't slaughter, right?
No, the rest.
The
he
rest,
does
the
not-
others,
Not
Right.
somebody else. The rest of the shechita is not,
the rest
not
of the
his animal.
shkita is not
His
his,
animal, because it already
goes to
belongs to
somebody
Avodah Zarah.
else, right? Right, namely to Avodah Zarah.
Zarah.
in this case. Lav demare katavach. He did not slaughter it for himself, in a sense,
not-
for his
right.
master. Amar Rava, says Rava, Ba'omer, it's when he says, Begamar zavicha hu ovda. It's when he says at the end of the slaughtering, okay, that
That
was
the
what,
individual doing the
that
shechita
did it for that
says
purpose. That
it
was
will
that
not
act.
be the shame of Avodah Zarah
Until he
I
finishes the act.
cut the
Until he
second
finishes
of
the act.
commandment.
Okay. All right. So what about the other example? Shor haniskal, the ox that was sentenced to be stoned. Lavdi dehu, the katavach. It's not his that he's slaughtering it. Right. Amar Rava, says Rava, hacha b'may yiskinan. What are we dealing with then? Kigon shemasru l'shomer. Let's suggest that maybe he gave it to the shomer. The shomer being the
So to any shomer. It's
Somebody to watch.
Reuven gives his ox to Shimon.
okay. You
That's
want
all
to
it
say
means.
any shomer? Okay,
That's all it means.
I'll accept it. I was thinking to the person who's been appointed by the Beis Din.
No, because then it would be
No,
hektish.
no.
That would be different thing.
No, not necessarily immediately hekdesh.
Well, it's either it's hektish mammon or hektish gufa, but it's
No.
immediately hektish if he gives it over to the gizbor.
No, I didn't say to the gizber. I said to the shomer of a Beis Din.
Oh, of the best.
Okay.
But it just means here,
right.
Reuven gave it to Shimon,
All right.
and now it gets. And now
Okay,
it
no, but
becomes
you'll
a
see
nuance.
why I understand. Right? For what happens? V'hizik b'veit shomer. And while this individual, whatever,
Shomer has
okay,
it,
has control of the animal,
becomes
it
a
went
lua.
ahead and attacked somebody. Okay,
Right.
v'nigmar dinei b'veit hashomer, and therefore the court case, as a result, completed. Okay, while the animal was in the
Hands of the
responsibility, okay, of the shomer, right? V'ganavo ganav mibeit hashomer, and then the animal was stolen from the house of the shomer
after the beast, the
after
Bezdin
the
made it.
declared it clearly
A
chayav,
lua.
right? Muad, right? So what happens? V'ganavo ganav mibeit shomer. But Rabbi Meir savar like Rabbi Yaakov. And Rabbi Meir, in this case, is of the opinion similar to Rabbi Yaakov, v'savar like Rabbi Shimon, and he's therefore also in the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Savar like Rabbi Yaakov, he holds like the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov. Why? The Amar, who says, Af mishenigmar dino, echziru shomer leba'alav muchzar. Okay, that once the court has rendered its decision, the shomer, okay, has returned the animal to its owner, and it is returned. In other words,
So
he's
even
returning
though-
the body of the ox. Okay, the body of the ox is returned, and therefore there would be no case against him. Okay, that's the point. Okay, it's considered returned. V'savar la ki Rabbi Shimon, and he holds also like Rabbi Shimon, the Amar, who says, Davar hagorem lemamon ki mamon dami. Okay, that here in a case, if it's something that's going to cause or require financial payment, right? That is like the payment. Okay. Now, what happens? Rava Amar says, Rava le'olam b'tovech al yedei atzma. He disagreed. Remember, the suggestion was that it was slaughtered by another person. Rav is giving an alternative, right? And he's saying here, no, the same person who stole it also slaughtered it. That's what he's saying. Okay, and we go over to the new Amud Beis. Okay, for Lamed Daled. The Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir would say, Loke u'mishalem itle. Okay, so what is Rabbi Meir's position? Malchus and payment, right? So this,
He doesn't hold,
That you
unless
receive-
it's Misa, he doesn't hold from Kumle.
okay, so that would be one way of explaining it, right? Okay, or the other way is that we've seen Ula had one position, or saw Rabbi Yochanan had a slightly different position. And now we're finally seeing an example of somebody who basically was going to require both. Okay, both Malchus and payment. Okay, so this is the first time we've, so to speak, officially seen someone with that, taking that stand. And as Michael said, he does not hold, or another way of explaining it, he does not accept cum lemi de rabamine. Okay,
For non-corporal punishment. In other words,
for a
beating-
situation that's been described so far, which was not a capital case or
Right.
corporal punishment, but a case of the combination of Malchus
the
and
issue is,
payment.
does Malchus consist of
Right.
corporal punishment?
That,
Therefore, Kumle would apply.
That we'll
Or
see.
only Misa is corporal.
well, we'll see. Okay,
Well,
let's
that's
go
the
on.
way.
Right? Mace umishalem lisle. But if there's a question here of the death penalty
That's-
and payment, then in that case, Rabbi Meir would hold that cum lemi de rabamine, that one punishment, the more severe punishment, let's put it that way, is the one that takes precedence. Okay? Now what happens? Vishani Hani, says the Gemara, there's something unique or different here. The chidush hu shechidsha Torah b'knas. That in this kind of a situation, there's a unique or new element, that the Torah established regarding the fine, payment of a penalty. Afal gav de miktal mishale. Okay, that even though the person is killed, all right, still has to pay. So what happens? Va'azda Rabba Latame, and Rabba followed his line of reasoning. The Amar Rabba, who says, Hayagadi ganuv lo utvacho b'Shabbat. Let's assume that an individual stole a lamb, right? And he slaughtered it on Shabbos. Chayav, he would be chayav. Shekvar nitchayev b'geneva kodim sheyavo lidei isur Shabbat. Okay. That why arguing that he was already transgressed thievery, the act of robbery, before it came to the prohibition of Shabbos of the slaughter. Okay. Ganav v'tavach b'Shabbat, if he stole it and slaughtered it on Shabbat, patur, would be exempt. She'im ein, right? She'im ein geneva, ein tvicha, ve'ein mechira. Why? Because if there's no thievery, there's no slaughter and no selling. Okay? The implication being that there's the combination, right? So what happens? Va'amar Rava, and Rava now says, Hayagadi ganuvlo utvacho b'machteret. Okay, so he gives another example, Rava. Let's assume that there was this stolen lamb, okay, right, by him, and it was slaughtered during an act of burglary. Okay? Chayav, he would be chayav. Shekvar nitchayev b'gneva kodem sheyavo lidei isur machteret. Right? Because why? Because he would already have transgressed and be guilty in the act of thievery before it came to the prohibition of burglary. Right? Ganav v'tavach b'machteret. If he stole the animal and slaughtered it during the act of burglary, okay, underground as he was sneaking out of the house, let's say. No, without, not Shabbos. This isn't the Shabbos example. Okay, patur, he would be exempt. She'im ein gneva, ein tvicha ve'ein mechira. Okay, that if there is no thievery here whatsoever, there is no slaughter and no sale. Okay, now Gemara is going to raise the following: utzricha. We need. Okay. In other words, why did Rava have to give two different kinds of examples? The Gemara wants to clarify. Okay. The Iyashma'in in Shabbat, had we only learned, or I only learned, his earlier example of Shabbos, Mishum de Isura, Isur Olam. Why? Because the prohibition of Shabbat is a global, universal kind of prohibition. Aval machteret ha'isur sha'ahi. Okay, emelo. But the burglary is only a temporary prohibition. It's only a one time, a particular time.
While he's in
While he's still in the tunnel,
Right.
he can
While
be
he's in the
chayav
tunnel.
mis.
Right.
Well, it says, "V'ima ma'ateres imotzei hagano."
Right. In other words, it's only, I don't want to say momentary, but in a sense,
It is.
it's momentary compared to
If the
Olam.
Ganav walked out
Right.
of the tunnel and
It's
the
another
and the owner
situation.
found him and killed him, he would be chayav misa for
It's
killing him.
another situation. Emelo, I would say no. Ve'iyashma'inin machteret mishum de machtarto zohi hatra'ato. And if I'm going to say, or I'm going to learn, that whereas the thief in the process of the burglary, okay, that's the case, that I'm saying when he's in the process, right, that's his warning. Okay, that's a kind of forewarning. Aval Shabbat, the Bai Hetra. But whereas on Shabbat, okay, which requires a very clear warning, all right, Emalo, I might say no, lo tzricha. Nevertheless, they are both then required, both examples of Ram. Okay, Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Haita para genuva. Let's take a different animal for whatever reason. Okay, let's say a cow, and the cow is stolen. V'tavcha b'Shabbat, and the cow is slaughtered on Shabbos. Okay, he stole the cow on Friday, and he slaughtered it on Shabbos. Chayav. Okay, he is guilty. Shekva, right?
Chayiv
Right.
daled b'chomesh.
Right? What? Shekva nitchayev b'geneva, kodem sheyavo lidei isur Shabbat. That he is already transgressed and is guilty of thievery right before it came to the time of the prohibition of Shabbos. Okay, therefore, what would be the situation? Okay, in other words, he would have to pay the normal amount for.
Even though
You would
he's
have to pay
chayiv
2 of the
misa.
4 already. So that shechting it that brings the
That
Geneva
adds,
pays
he
capo and
pays
the
one
other
thing,
2
and the
because
other
of the
would be
shechita.
something else.
Right.
Okay, but that would be the point. In other words, you have
See,
there
Kumle would not apply.
would not apply.
Right.
That's the point, that you would have one payment for the thievery and one payment for the shechting. That's the point that the Gemara wants to tell us. Right? Haita para she'ula lo. If it was a cow that was loaned to him, v'tavcha b'Shabbat, and he slaughtered it on Shabbos, patur,
It would be putter from
exempt.
from the tashlumin.
Right? Why? Amarle Rav Acha Berei de Rava, says Rav Acha, son of Rava, the Rav Ashi, Rav Papa, para atila ashma'ina. Okay, what basis is it that the Rav Papa is trying to teach us with this other
Why did
example?
he switch to a
Okay, why did he switch to, I would say more than that. Why did he switch not just to a cow, but why did he switch to the idea of it being loaned as opposed to other situations?
That
Okay.
could be the answer.
Right? Amarle, says Rav Ashi tells him, Rav Papa, Shula Atila Ashma'inen. Rav Papa wanted to come to teach us the example of a loaned animal as opposed to a stolen animal, right? Salka da'atachamina. It's possible I might have thought, Ho'il va'amar Rav Papa, that this is what Rav Papa was saying and trying to tell us. Misha'at meshicha hu de'it chayev leba mezonote. Okay, that at the time that the person who was doing the loaning drew the animal, okay, that was almost like it was a kinyan, okay, and therefore he became responsible for the well-being, I'll say, of the animal.
Which is an incident of ownership.
Right, which is one aspect of ownership, right? Hachanami, here too, misha'at she'ela it chayev ba'onseh, that maybe I would then make the parallel that at the occasion of loaning the animal, borrowing the animal, he becomes responsible for any accident that occurs to the animal. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that that's not the case, right? Amar Rava, says Rava, hiniach lehen avihen parash ula. Let's take another example, says Rava, that the father, okay, passed away, and he left for his heirs an animal that had been loaned to him. Right? Mishtamshin ba kol yomei sha'alta. Okay, he utilized the animal all the time that for the loan. Meta. Okay, and the animal died.
New case.
Right.
No, the first case is he borrows the cow for a month. A week into the month, he dies.
Right.
So the kids sit shiva for a week,
And
and
then
then they
use it
can
for the rest.
Still use the
cow
animal.
for
Right.
2
Right,
weeks,
right.
period. That's
Okay.
the end of that.
Meta. Now, however, Meta, it died. Ein chayavin ba'onsa. If the animal died, while it was in the responsibility of the heirs, that's the point that the Gemara is continuing, right? They are not held responsible for any accident that occurs to the animal. Okay? Kisvarin shall avihem, because it's considered as if it was their father's.
They could have thought it was their
They
father.
thought there was fathers, right? Utvachuha, and they slaughtered it, va'achluha, and then they ate it. What happens in that situation? Mishalmim demei basar bazol. Okay, that they pay an amount to the person who loaned the animal to their father, but they don't have to pay really the market price of the animal. They pay it on the cheap.
Choice meat rather
Okay.
than fry.
That's the point.
No. They get a break. Right.
They get a break,
Get a break.
right? That's the point. Hiniach lehen avihem achrayut nechasim. So let's take another example where the father left them, okay, property, right? That was a guarantee for a loan, right? In this situation, chayavin l'shalem. There they are. The heirs are responsible to pay.
The market value.
Okay, the regular price. Ika dematne la aresha. There are some who teach this on the earlier statement. The ika dematne la asefa. And there are some who teach this on the later statement. Right? Man dematne la aresha. According to the one who teaches it on the earlier statement, kol shekain asefa. All the more so on the latter statement, the latter example. Upliga the Rav Papa, and they disagree with Rav Papa. Okay?
That the kids get it.
Right. That they're only chayav when an accident occurs. Uman dematne la asefa, and the one who teaches it on the end statement. Okay? What's right in that case? Aval aresha lo, but on the end, on the earlier statement, no. Bahainu de Rav Papa, and this was the view of Rav Papa. Same view. Okay, let's go on. Bishlema Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, now we're back to the issue of the rape of the sister. Okay, and whether you have to pay or you get lashes. Okay, Bishlema Rabbi Yochanan. That's now we understand the view of Rabbi Yochanan. Lo Amar Karesh Lakish, that he didn't say the similar view to Reish Lakish. The Kamokim La Karabanan, because Rabbi Yochanan holds like the view of the rabbis. Ela Reish Lakish, my Tamalo Amar Rabbi Yochanan. What's the reason that Reish Lakish did not hold like Rabbi Yochanan? Amar Lach, he would tell you. Kevan de Ilu Atrube, since it's possible they could have warned him. Patur, okay, he would be exempt. Kilo Atrube, Nami Patur. And if they didn't warn him, he would also be exempt. Va'azdu l'ta'amayu, and each went and followed their own line of reasoning. Dechi ata Rav Dimi Yama, and one Rav Dimi who was commuting back and forth from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael and vice versa, and he would bring the learning of Eretz Yisrael to the sages of Bavel, or vice versa. What happens? When he came on his trip, Chayve mitot shogegin, Chayve malkiot shogegin. Excuse me. What was he arguing here? Okay, that those who are subject to the death penalty in cases of in unintent,
No.
right?
If it's an issue of chayve misa,
Yeah,
but it is shogeg.
it is shogeg, and it's an
So
unintentional,
therefore you don't get misa.
Right.
But it would be misa if you had asra.
right?
Or if it's a malchus.
Yeah,
case.
let's follow up and we'll see. All right, chayve miso shogegin. If one is to be theoretic, well, I don't want to say theoretically. If one is to
If
be
you would have
punished,
done it, if you would
if
have
you,
done
if,
it,
if the punishment was going to be a death penalty, and it was, however, inadvertent, v'chayve malkiot shogegin, or if the punishment was to be lashes, but it was done inadvertently, right? V'davar echer, or some other similar example, and the other davar acher means a payment.
right,
Okay, that's what it's referring to. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, says Rabbi Yochanan Chayav,
or both,
that they are Chayav,
to pay the
Right.
money.
right? Varesh Lakish Amar Patur, and Reish Lakish says he's exempt. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayav, he says he's obligated. Daha lo atruve. Why? Because they did not warn him. Reish Lakish Amar Patur. Reish Lakish says he's exempt. Kevan de ilu atruve. For were they to have warned him, Patur, he would still be exempt,
Because it's shogeg.
right? Because that would be one clear case. Because it was an inadvertent act. Okay? Kilo atrube. And when they don't warn him, nami patur, he is also to be considered exempt.
Stop there.
Okay. Hold
Because
on.
it
One
keeps
second.
going.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I just want to. Okay. All right, we'll stop there because the next piece goes over to the next Amud, and that's going to have to go down a ways to clarify the positions again. Okay, so we'll stop there.
You coming with me, Mel, or are you sticking with Marty?
Okay.
Right.